You were here with Tri-Pedal Reviews. The first half of this video will be going over the features and the controls on the Red Panda Raster version 2, and the second half of the video will be going over the web editor. I will leave detailed timestamps in the description as always if you'd like to jump around, so make sure to check those out if you are interested. If you just want to hear some sounds and playing, I've made a separate video demonstrating some presets I came up with. If you'd rather see that, I'll leave a link to that in the description. This video is going to be a lot of talking, and I know that's not everyone's thing, so if it's not your thing, click off now. So what is the Raster? The vision Red Panda had when they set out to make this pedal was to cram as many digital rack mount delay tricks into one pedal as possible. At its core, the Raster is a killer stereo digital delay pedal. They've also tied a lot of modulation options, as well as stereo field manipulation, pitch, and frequency shifting. But let's start with the basics. The pedal can be powered with a 9-volt center negative at 250 milliamps. For I/O, you can plug in two mono cables just like you do any other effects pedal or TS connections, or you can use TRS on both the input and output for stereo operation. You can also mix and match these however you like. Currently, I'm using a breakout cable, where it has two mono ends connected into one stereo end, and I'm plugging that into the output. So right now I'm running a mono in to stereo out configuration for this demo. The control port here, which I'll utilize later for expression control, you can hook up an expression pedal, tap tempo switch, remote switch, or MIDI. This is the bypass switch to turn the effect on and off. The blend controls the mix of your wet and dry signal, so we won't hear any delay signal with it fully counterclockwise. And if we turn it all the way clockwise, we won't hear any dry signal. In the middle is unity. The delay knob here controls your delay time. The switch down here will control the amount of maximum delay you can have. To the left is 400 milliseconds, in the middle is 800 milliseconds, and to the right is 1600 milliseconds. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate what the maximum delay time on all three of those modes sounds like. First the 400 milliseconds, now the 800, now the 1600. Now there is a fourth range accessible in the web editor for 3200 seconds. I'll go ahead and quickly show you how long that is. So the feedback knob here is going to control the amount of repeats we have in the signal. Right now I have it fully counterclockwise, so we'll just get one repeat. This works in conjunction with the switch down here, which is the feedback behavior. To the left is constantly going backwards. In the middle we have constantly going forward. And to the right we have one that you won't hear the difference now, but it goes forward and shifts only one time. With using the pitch shifting, if you have constantly going forward or constantly going in reverse and you have a pitch going, it will continuously descend or ascend depending on the setting. So if you don't want it to do that, then you would use the forward and only shift once setting. Now the cool thing about the feedback knob, we have this little infinity symbol at about 3 o'clock here. And what that marks is the point at which what you play will continuously play, but it won't increase in volume. So it's like oscillation, but it doesn't get out of control. And you can do some really cool things with those settings. I'll go ahead and try this now. As we can hear there's certain settings on here that are set so that the sound evolves as it continues. So you can do really cool things with that alone, just playing something and then having it morph into something else. So that's one cool thing. The other cool thing I found here that's not really documented, we'll mess with this time switch as we're playing. you can do some really cool things just messing with the delay time switch here, and also the way that things feed back into each other. Just using kind of that infinite oscillation, but not out of control type setting. We can also get out of control by cranking the feedback knob above that. In this section, we have our modulation, depth, and speed, and then we have a wave selector where we can select 7 different LFO types, and then an envelope up and down option. Now, one thing that is kind of confusing is you have only 4 lights up here for the wave selector. What I made the mistake just first glancing at this is thinking that the shape corresponds to what is above the light, and that isn't the case. It cycles through these shapes from left to right. So let's go through the wave shape options. The first one is sine wave. The second is triangle. The third is sawtooth. The fourth is reverse sawtooth. The fifth is square. The sixth is random step. And the seventh is random slope. This is envelope down. This is envelope up. Those were over-exaggerated waveforms so that you could hear the shape of the LFO. I'll be demoing more useful modulation settings later in the video. You can determine the behavior of this switch with this switch. To the right is tap tempo. In the middle is latching, which means it will turn on and off with a button press. And to the left is momentary, which means that you have to hold down the button for the effect to be engaged. Now the behavior of the shift and what it is modifying is controlled with this switch up here. To the left is semitone. In the middle is detune. And to the right is phase and frequency shifting. When shift is bypassed, the shift knob has no effect. Noon on the shift knob is neutral, and then you can adjust your shift up or down from there. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this. We'll start with semitone. We can already hear that the signal is going up because we are in the continuously forward mode. I'll demonstrate what the forward shift once mode does now that we're on the shift control. So we can hear the pitch only shifted up once, whereas in the middle here it constantly shifts. So that's our noon point, which is neutral. There will be no shift happening. And the further we crank this up, the more shift will happen. If we go below noon, it will descend downwards. The next mode is detune. To the right is frequency or phase shifting. Now this switch controls the way that the behavior of this switch operates, just like this one did for that switch. So to the left we have Momentary, which is when you hold the switch down, the effect is on, and when you release it's off. In the middle is Latching, which means that you press it once and press it again to engage and disengage. And then to the right we have Mute Output. So right here we have the preset switch. You can cycle through 4 presets by just tapping the button. And then you have your live setting. From the web editor, you can access 127 presets. To save a preset, you just hold down the preset button to save after you make your adjustments. Now the wave button here acts as an alternate or shift control, so to edit any of the secondary parameters, you need to hold that button down, and your light is going to turn blue right here. Note that if you want to disable any of the secondary parameters, you can hold the shift key and then move any of the knobs to noon, and that will disable the secondary parameter. Most of the parameters on the secondary functions have to do with stereo operation, so a lot of them can be ignored if you're not running stereo. So first we'll start with the blend knob here. This controls your left and right balance of the delay. So if we want to pan it all the way to the left, we can do that. Or we can pan it all the way to the right. Or you can set it anywhere in between. So we'll set this back to the middle. Delay acts as your left and right ratio. So right now we have the same ratio going in both left and right. But you can adjust this to different ones. So those are just a couple of them. We can create even more rhythmic delay possibilities by utilizing the various routing options. So just to go over the routing options, you adjust it with the middle switch here. This is an alternate on the middle switch. To the left is going to be series, which means the first delay is running into the second. In the middle is parallel, which means the delay lines are running beside each other. And to the right is ping pong, which means that the delays are going to alternate back and forth. So let's change this to series so the first delay is running into the second delay. We should now hear some evolving rhythmic textures that are different from what we heard before. Your alternate control for the feedback knob is the delay tone. At noon, it is neutral. At minimum, we have very dark repeats. At 9 o'clock, we still have a dark delay more akin to an analog delay sound. Noon, as we've stated before, is neutral. They say around 1:30 on the dial gives an emphasis to the attack of the notes for a more percussive feel. Three o'clock is high pass filtered. And maximum is band pass filtered. The delay time switch over here becomes your tap tempo divisions. To the left, we have eighth note. In the middle, we have a dotted eighth note. And to the right, we have a quarter note. The secondary controls for the shift behavior switch turns into your modulation destination. To the left is amplitude, the center is delay time, and to the right is frequency shift. So this is amplitude modulation. The center is delay time modulation. To the right is frequency shifting. The alternate control on the modulation rate is going to be Modulation Phase. Currently we have it set to noon, so the modulation applies the same to both channels. Now we will adjust the modulation phase If you adjust it all the way counterclockwise, the modulation will go up on one end and down on the other. So let's set this back to noon. The alternate control for the modulation depth is going to be controlling the amount of modulation on the left or right channel. So you can skew the depth either left or right so that it is less modulated on the left versus the right, or vice versa. To learn about the next alternate control, we need to understand that the pedal operates in two modes. Linked mode, which means the right and left channels are linked together, and independent mode, which means that the left and right channels are not linked together. Linked mode is the only mode available through the pedal itself. To set independent mode, you'll either need MIDI or the web editor. In linked mode, the manual states the alternate function for the shift knob is shifting balance from the left to right. This is kind of misleading. What you are controlling is the amount of shift per left and right channel. So adjusting the shift knob, left or right, will skew one side or the other to do more or less pitch shifting, as opposed to the opposite side. So let's just take a listen. This is unity, so both sides shifting the same. Now let's do the other extreme. Now you can get both sides shifting differently with any settings in between. And the very last alternate control to go over is the secondary for the bypass. This turns on and off your trails for the delay. So right now I have it off. If I want to turn it on, I hold the wave button down and then just hit that. And now it should be on. And we've done it, guys. That's all the controls available on the front of this pedal. The last thing we're going to go over is how to assign expression control. So first you're going to want to have the pedal powered on. We have an expression pedal connected up via this TRS cable. While the pedal is powered on, we want to hold down the right bypass button and then plug in the pedal. This light blinks 3 times to indicate we're in configuration mode. We then rock the heel back and make whatever knob adjustments we're going to have. We're going to keep this simple, so we're just going to do the blend of the delay. So I'm going to set that to whatever position I want it, and then I'm going to hold this button again till it blinks. And now I move the treadle to the toe down position, and then I move the knob to wherever I want the blend to be. And you can do this with multiple knobs in any direction. Once that's done, you want to hold down the button again, and you should be good to go. Now, if you want to calibrate your expression pedal, you do the exact same procedure, but don't turn any of the knobs. Now we're going to go over the web editor. You'll want to power on the pedal and then connect a USB to mini USB Type B to the pedal to get it hooked up to your computer. You're then going to want to browse to Red Panda's site and find the editors. You will need to use Google Chrome to run this editor. Don't try and run it in any other browser. Here on the Help tab, we have some resource links, a link to the knowledge base, the user manuals and firmware upgrades, a Contact Us link, a section detailing setting controls via the expression pedal, a small mention of limitations, and a troubleshooting section. In the Config tab, we can see what firmware that we're running. There is a PSU voltage toggle here. I'm not sure what that does, quite honestly. You have your maximum input level, which you can select. The default is +8 dBu. You have your routing options here. That is auto-selected, but you can manually select it there. There is a bypass mode that you can change to DSP, analog, analog plus effects level, or kill dry. You can set trails on and off here. You can also select your MIDI channel and toggle the pedal to receive MIDI clock. Next is the Presets tab. Here we can load our various presets. To load, you just click load, and then whatever number you want to load. To save a preset, make the adjustments that you want on the pedal or the editor. Once you're done, click save, and then click whatever number of preset you want to save to. Next we have the Control Port tab. Here we can set up what type of switch or expression pedal we're using. We can set our expression control parameters, and then the heel and max positions for each one of those. I have an expression pedal connected right now, and as we can see, if I move the expression pedal, this moves with it, so we can see the position. And then down here we can set, if we have a remote switch, we can set how that behaves. And then you can save the settings right there. The edit screen is where we will do most of our editing for presets. Here is the amount of shift up or down from noon. This controls the shift ratio from left to right, having more shift on one side or the other. Here we can do our shift mode. So transpose or semitone is going to adjust in semitone increments. Detune is going to do it smoothly. And frequency shift is going to shift the frequencies. Blend is going to control the blend of our delay signal and our dry signal. Blend left to right is going to control how much delay is on the left or right channel. Tone is going to be our tone control, so in the middle is neutral. Higher settings will be brighter. Here we can select our structure, whether we're doing parallel, series, or ping pong. Series runs one delay into another. This is more relevant when you're using different delay ratios for the left or right because you'll get rhythmic delays. Here we control the behavior of the left foot switch. And here is where you set your independent or linked modes for the shift. Linked means that both channels, the left and right, are linked together and can't be changed independently. And independent means that they can. So as just an example here, we'll select transpose, and then let's turn on shift and adjust this so that one side is doing low shift. Now to adjust the second delay line, you have to hold wave on the pedal and then adjust the shift from there. And now we should hear different shift settings in both channels. Here we control our feedback, which is the delay repeats. We can also set independent left and right feedback, so whatever channel has more feedback. So we can hear there it kind of trails off to one side, which is really cool. Here we select our various modes for constant forward, constant reverse, feedback, or forward or reverse shift once. Here we have control of our modulation rate and depth, and also the modulation phase, so you can set it to be, for example, 180 degrees out of phase, so that one side is going up while the other side is going down. Here we can select the modulation waveshape. Here we can select our modulation destination. And here we have the ability to invert the feedback. This is more useful with shorter delay settings that get into flanger-esque territory. So you get more of a hollow sound. This is akin to negative feedback on a flanger. Same thing, just different delay ranges. Here we control the delay time, and this also relates to this delay range selection. So that determines your maximum delay range, and then you're operating within that range with this control. And then this is the delay ratio. So if we want to set different ratios per left and right channel, we can do that here. Let's choose a longer delay time so we can hear that. Alright, let's turn off the modulation there. You can choose your various tap tempo divisions for the delay here, and there's a lot more than what is available on the front of the pedal. Same thing with your modulation. You can select that all there. And then you have the behavior of your right foot switch and your global trails setting. Or per preset, you can turn that on and off there. So let's just go through a couple of the presets that I made earlier. So this first one is the one where I played kind of the Saints Go Marching In riff. And it just has extreme modulation for the delay line. So here we can see I've just cranked the modulation depth, and I have a fairly slow rate, and I've also set the feedback mode to reverse. So that was the main building block of this preset. This is the chorus type preset. Here we can see I've selected a shorter delay range and a shorter delay time. Then I've also I've done kind of a slow rate with moderate depth. And then I've adjusted the phase of the modulation, so it's kind of off-kilter, which if you're painting, you know not to paint even numbers of things because it's not as interesting to the brain, especially in like nature paintings. It's always good to have things a little off-kilter to keep the brain interested, so that's what I did on this setting, and that's what I actually like doing a lot with this pedal, just kind of making things a little off. This was just my attempt at just a basic digital delay dotted eighth type setting. So here I've kept the tone neutral. I have 800 milliseconds, and I've just kept the delay kind of at noon, which is where that sweet spot is. Here I've just dialed in a darker reverse type setting. This is about the same basic concept, but I'm also using volume modulation to kind of give it a more swelly effect. This is that very first preset where I was tapping the chord against the body of the guitar. And here we're just using frequency shifting. This is the preset I used for the package riff. Here I'm just using very slow and shallow modulation with a really dark tone. Here I've set up a really high feedback ping pong type wash. This is a preset where we have the modulation 180 degrees out of phase, so as the left side's going up, the right side's going down. Now the rate is set extremely low, and the depth is set moderately, so you don't really know what's going on, but it sounds really good in stereo. And the last one, we're going to go over the delay in left and right, set uniformly so we get a rhythmic delay. And we can play around with that. So there we have it. That's the editor in a nutshell. Between the two sections of this video, you should have a pretty good handle on what you can do with this pedal. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more pedal reviews in the future. Hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye.